Hello, welcome everyone to our talk show. I am Tea Santa Ana, your host for today, and we will have four students here to discuss disasters in ASEAN. Before we begin, we've prepared three questions for each of the students to answer. These questions are as follows. Do you think disasters will become an increasing problem for ASEAN in the coming years? Why or why not? What is the concerted and coordinated effort being done in ASEAN among member states to reduce the negative impact of disasters? How do different stakeholders, such as international institutions, policymakers, private sectors, academia, and media, contribute towards disaster risk reduction and management in ASEAN? And lastly, in our own way, what can we do to contribute towards lessening the risk or impact of disasters in our household or community? Let's all navigate through these questions. All of these questions help ASEAN in building a more resilient and secure community. Let's start with our first student, Miss Nina. Take it away.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me. To answer your first question, I strongly believe that the ASEAN is on the brink of experiencing a large increase in natural disasters in the coming decades. I believe that the surge in natural disasters is caused by several critical geological factors that worsen the region's vulnerability. To begin with, many ASEAN nations are situated within the Pacific Ring of Fire. The Pacific Ring of Fire is an area where tectonic plates converge, and between these plates, there are frequent seismic activities such as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Climate change only intensifies and adds to these hazards by heating our oceans, potentially worsening the destructive power of this geological phenomenon. Moreover, rapid urbanization adds to the risk due to large populations in vulnerable zones, particularly along coastlines and riverbanks. As cities expand and infrastructure extends, more people become exposed to the dangers of geological disasters. This urban sprawl not only increases the likelihood of casualties, but complicates disaster response and recovery efforts. Additionally, we have the threat of the rising sea levels. Because of climate change, low-lying areas and coastal zones are at a much higher risk of natural disasters and calamities. Without proactive measures to alleviate these risks, the socioeconomic impacts of disasters can escalate dramatically. All of these factors compound together, which is why it is very important that we have this discussion. In short, unless significant investments are made in preparing for these disasters, Southeast Asia is at risk of facing increasingly devastating consequences from natural disasters. It is important that policymakers, communities, and stakeholders collaborate to implement proactive measures to safeguard lives, livelihoods, and infrastructure in the face of these challenges.
Great points, Nina. Because of our location, we are already at risk to so many calamities. For our second student, Akira, do you have anything else to add? I want to know, what else do you think had an impact on how ASEAN handles disasters?
I agree with all the points that Tina made. I'd also like to point out that poverty increases disaster impacts. Throughout the region, particularly among the impoverished and vulnerable segments of society, various forms of deprivations are prevalent. These marginalized communities lack the means and resources to adequately prepare for disasters, rendering them even more vulnerable to a calamity's destructive consequences. The aftermath of such events can be devastating, as the road to recovery becomes significantly more challenging for those already grasping with poverty. As members of a community, it is important that we extend a helping hand to those in need during times of crisis. We bear a collective responsibility to support and uplift our fellow citizens who find themselves affected by disasters. It is a must that we prioritize the well-being of every individual within our community, rallying together to provide those who are affected with assistance and resources in the face of adversity. It is only through the collaborative efforts and a commitment to mutual aid that we can mitigate the impacts of disaster and foster resilience within our community.
I agree. I'm really glad that you brought up that point since there are so many communities that have a hard time in recovering from these disasters. It's important that we shine a light on these experiences so that we can do what we can for them. For our third student, Shira, I want to know your thoughts too. What's your take on these questions? I want to know what you think are the efforts being made by ASEAN to address the disasters and calamities that the region faces.
To answer the next question, ASEAN has implemented several coordinated efforts to reduce disaster risks, such as the ASEAN Agreement on Disaster Management and Emergency Response, or AADMER for short. Under AADMER, member states have developed national disaster management plans, and the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management facilitates regional cooperation. International organizations like the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction support national DRR strategies. Policymakers integrate DRR into development plans with guidance from experts. Private sectors help strengthen infrastructure resilience while the media raises disaster awareness. Academia conducts research to inform evidence based DRR policies and practices. In short, all of these have important roles to fulfill when it comes to cooperation to help reduce the risk of disaster.
Thank you so much, Shira, for your answers. I really love all the points you made. I agree that there should be more focus on regional cooperation, which would greatly help the ASEAN in preventing disasters. For our third student, David, what do you think? As a student, I want to know how can we do our part in lessening the risk of these disasters?
On a local level, things like volunteering with drainage cleaning, joining preparedness training, and making emergency plans and kits at home can all help reduce risks. Basic first aid training is also useful. Just being aware of risks and helping raise awareness among others in the neighborhood are valuable.
You all made very brilliant points. Lastly, I will be giving my own personal thoughts and wrapping up most of our answers on these questions. I agree with all of you. I believe that disasters will be an increasing problem for ASEAN in the years to come. The reason why I think this is because the region is situated on the Pacific Ring of Fire, making it very susceptible to seismic and volcanic risks. Because the ASEAN region is also known for having many tropical islands, there are also many coastal cities and communities that are at risk due to rising sea levels. Lastly, poverty is an issue, which means that there are communities that are unable to provide and protect themselves during calamities. To answer question 2, maintaining communication and coordination between the stakeholders is already contributing towards disaster risk reduction and management, as stated by Shira. By having good coordination among the ASEAN members, initiatives and decisions can be formed to better prepare for unpredictable disasters and its effects on ASEAN and the region. Lastly, we can all contribute towards the lessening of the risk and impact of these disasters in our communities by bringing awareness towards it and preparing well for these events. I do this by engaging with the communities that I have at home and advocating for sustainable practices. These include helping communities that do not have the resources to protect themselves in these situations. Based on all your great answers, what I got is that if everyone shares the same mindset and does what they can for their local community, we can overcome anything that these disasters put us through. I believe that through this, we can all play a small but important part in lessening the risk of these disasters. Great contributions from everyone. I agree with with all of your points, and disasters will definitely increase with all the factors mentioned. Coordinated efforts are helping, but we all need to play a role where we live and work. Small actions add up to make a difference. Wonderful discussion today, you guys. Thank you all so much for your insightful responses. Again, this is Teodoro Ignacio C. Santa Ana, your favorite host, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.